Hello, my name is Lowell, pronouns he, him, and this is a session of Microscope Chronicle. Again, I've said microscope really weirdly in that. I'm going to say it enough times that it's going to sound strange, even when I'm saying it normally later. This is the playtest version of Microscope Chronicle. So, Microscope Chronicle, a version of it appeared in the supplement to Microscope Explorer. This is Ben Robbins' adaptation of that. He's done some tweaks on it. The playtest version exists on his site, and I think itch.io page, and he's encouraging people to try it out. We're not exactly doing a playtest today, but I wanted to see what it was like, especially because this is the last of the Ben Robbins games that I hadn't played yet. I've done Microscope, Kingdom, Follow, In This World, and we did Union last week. Uh, and Unabashedly, I love these games. So just so you know that I've done Microscope quite a few times. Today I'm going to be facilitating. So I'm going to be kind of moving us along, checking in with people, getting things set, but letting you come up with the materials and things. Uh, this is a game that is about sort of creative work, coming up with ideas. We're going to be building a historical timeline, a history. We're going to be finding some ways to enter into that history to dig in and dwell on some things. It means we're moving back and forth, but there is a unifying thread here. In a standard microscope, we can go anywhere, we can jump around, we can kind of do anything. There's a lens, a focus to each turn. But here, we're going to start with an idea of what we're chronicling, whether it's the story of a magic weapon, whether it's the story of a secret order, whether it's the story of a particular kingdom. We're going to come up, a story of a spaceship. We're going to come up with a thing that we're chronicling. And what the periods are in its history, what things happened to it, and then also what characters were involved with that. This switches from standard microscope and it has things called anchors. These are people that are related to the thing that we're chronicling, and I'll talk about how those get put into play a little bit later on. Standard microscope uses scenes where at the very bottom level, when you kind of do a scene within an event, you actually go and play it out. You can do that with Microscope Chronicle. I'm not going to. And in fact, the rules specifically say dedicated directed scenes are probably your default, like saying a detail about an event. So that's just good for you to know. We'll be playing at least 4 rounds so that everybody gets a chance to be the first player. And then once we've done that, we'll see what time we have. The other thing I want to mention about the play structure is at the beginning, we're going to be making some decisions about the chronicle itself, what genre we want to play in, the palette, the ad band, things like that. That's places where we're going to be doing discussion, talking with each other. But when we actually get to putting things onto the timeline itself, that's where people are kind of like, uh, we put you on the spotlight, and you get a chance to think about it and put it in here. And we don't kibitz. We might ask a question after you put something in for clarification or to ask, how it fits with something else we've established. And, at the table, I have big piles of snacks when I run microscope. So people, when they're anxious, well, when there's that dead air, they have something to do. But that's just one of the principles of this game. Now, this is a GM-less, very much diceless story narrative game, but we are using a layered set of safety tools to make sure that we can manage our play. Those are on the safety tab. I know I've played with all of you multiple times, so I'll just briefly, again, we are using the lines and veils and the ask first. Ask first being, okay, if we wanted to put it in the history, we want to check in before we have that in there. Uh, and then the X card. The X card is a way if somebody puts something on, you need to stop and interrupt. You can X card something that you find objectionable, that you find problematic, that you feel is wildly off the tone that we've kind of stopped and established, or that maybe has started to touch on or hit against something that we've already put as a line or a veil. So just keep in mind we have that tool. For me, the X card is also a point to recalibrate if we need to stop and kind of talk about where we're headed, that kind of thing. So feel free to use that as a place to interrupt. Again, with any of these invocation of safety tools, you are welcome to explain why you've made a particular choice, why you've invoked a particular safety tool, but you are not required to. You are never required to defend your decisions, your choices in safety there. And then, of course, the last thing we have is we have a open door policy, which means that if you need to step away for whatever reason, for bio break, for someone at the door, for whatever, you're welcome to do that. If you're going to be back and you want to tell us you're going to be back, tell us in chat, but you're not required to do that. Those are the real basics of what we got here. Um, so, with that in mind, uh, what I want to do first is, and again, we're going to be doing our chronicle based around, as it says, a city, an object, an organization, anything in between, something concrete that we will be following. But I think probably uh, we want to talk about uh, like what the genre is. Now, I am going to read from the text here as they instruct you to, just so I back up what I've said in the cats, and just to give you Ben Robbins' words. In Microscope Chronicle, we'll create the history of a single thing, like a frontier town, a legendary sword, or an old space freighter. We'll tell the story of the Chronicle by telling the story of the people whose lives are impacted by it. But we won't create a history in chronological order. We'll build it from the outside in, starting from the big picture and then jumping back and forth in time to explore the parts that interest us. We'll know how our story ends and then see how we got there. We'll start off by making things together, but once we're on the same page, we'll switch to contributing individually, each of us building on what other players created. Ultimately, the world we create belongs to all of us, and our contributions are its most important ingredient. But be prepared for the story to turn out different than you expect. Even though we start knowing how the history begins and ends, the story that unfolds will surprise us. So, anyone have a strong feeling about what genre they would like to explore in the broadest sense? Uh, Fantasy, science fiction, modern fantasy, superhero, sci-fi, anything that is singing to folks. This is one of those times when I riskily open it up to the table.
I mean, I have
Jose,
no strong.
you
Oh,
did done
okay.
go.
I was going to say I have no strong feelings about genre, but I like the idea of a thing which passes through multiple hands.
Okay. Thing.
Uh, that could be like a weapon or a ship or whatever, genre appropriate item.
Okay. So yeah, so we're actually an object, book, sword, ship, something that will pass down will be the focus of our chronicle. I like that. Jose, if I were to ask you a couple of genres that you'd be interested in exploring, what would you say?
Hi, everybody. First of all, just want to say hi, and also just want to also put in a caveat that I've never played Microscope before, so this is all
Oh,
first
awesome.
virginal territory for me. Okay, back to your question. Two genres that jump out. I guess an urban fantasy genre comes to mind as one possibility, and then another possibility. Um, That probably won't work as well in here. Okay, I'm scratching that one. Let's see if I have another. Yeah, I seem to be attracted towards something like in modern day.
Okay.
That's not a genre per se, but like in a contemporary times,
Okay.
rather than some kind of strange fantasy or science fiction setting. But I'm
So,
open.
so a more grounded, relatively contemporary world.
Yeah.
Uh, Folks like the idea of sort of modern urban fantasy. It gives us, a broad range to work in, in terms of where the history begins, and where it ends. Does that sound good? Uh, Adish, what what do you think is a good object for us to trace through this history?
I was thinking before we started, I was thinking of like a text, not necessarily a specific book, but like a text that gets translated and transcribed through time. But if we're aiming more for an object thing, and we're doing urban fantasy, um, I'd like it to be something versatile, something that can be used in different ways. Um, so probably not a weapon. Um, Key, maybe,
Sorry, what?
maybe a key
A key. Okay.
or a
Uh,
musical instrument, maybe.
Musical instrument. Okay. Uh, so, uh, Puckett, what kind of musical instrument? Is this a violin, a piano, a multi-purpose, a hurdy-gurdy, something else, a dulcimer,
Mm, a drum.
a drum? Okay.
More specifically, the shell of the drum, because at different times it's probably had different skins put on it. It may have been a snare, it may have been a kettle drum, but the shell always remains the same.
Okay. Uh, Dunna, what is an ominous name for this drum?
Ominous name for a drum. Um,
Ominous or fanciful?
yeah. I mean, I like good doom. I like doom as a generic ominous word. Um,
The doom drum, the doomsday
there is a
drum?
beer here called Doom Bar, which always feels very cool to be drinking. But yeah,
How literal do you want to be? Doom drum, doomsday drum, drum of doom?
or maybe it's just the Doom.
Okay. All right. Chronicle of the Doom. We'll kind of put parentheses drum. Uh, I'm going to go around uh, for three of you that are up to give me a detail about this drum. Don't have to go into full detail, but just something that we know about this at the start, appearance, history, kind of something like that. So, Jose, what is a detail about this drum?
Um, a detail about this drum is that it's made of a wood that is somehow impossible to identify. It's not a wood that anybody knows, that anyone has ever seen before.
Okay. Andish, what's another thing we know about this drum?
Can I pitch a look for it? Because I have a picture. If I can get it here, this is actually a baptismal font, but could be a drum.
Oh, that's particularly freaky. Everyone fine with the strange carven Celtic look to that? And Puckett, I want to have you add one more detail onto this.
Legend has it that if it is played in the presence of someone who has an undisclosed secret, that, how to put this? Legend has it that when played in the presence of someone who thinks they have gotten away with murder, they will spontaneously confess.
Okay, I like that. So, a modern setting, we're talking about the Chronicle of the Drum. Uh, Now, I want to move us over. We're going to come back to this planning page in a second, but I want to move us to the other tab to the Chronicle because I want to talk about what this is. So you'll see that I've got some columns hidden and I've got some columns that are there. One of the columns, the furthest to the left, has under period, it says starting bookend. And then there's one further on that says ending bookend. Each of those columns is a period. So that period that's there on that third row is kind of like, okay, this is the time span that we're looking into. Below that, we'll put events, and they will go from uh, uh, like from start to end. So they will go chronologically. So we will rearrange or move around cells as we need to kind of rearrange the order of things. It's why actually I think the first event we'll put it in that second box to give us some room to do that. There, if you want to do a dictated scene about an event, we'll widen that column that's next to it and put it in there. So that's how that's going to work. Those are the main things. The period is the span of time, the events of the history, things that happened within it, and then we can comment on those events. At the top are the anchors. These are people. These are people that are present in the period that when we come to like tell our story, we're often going to be like focusing in on those anchors. Each anchor can is associated with a particular period, so a particular span of time in the history of this drum. We can have multiple anchors. If we get a second anchor you want to put on there, we'll widen that column and we'll put it beside that. I imagine that an anchor can come back in a later period, maybe referenced in the history, or perhaps they become like a different anchor because they've changed dramatically. We might do that. So that's one of the things that I imagine. Now, to do this, we start by saying, here is what we're going to call the uh, uh, period, uh, like the first one, like the starting one, and the ending one. And we're going to set that. We're going to figure it out. What do we think we have? So, Donna, do you want to tell us what we're going to describe as the starting period, the starting span of time, or the ending part of time?
Um, I kind of have an idea for the starting,
Okay.
mostly prompted by looking at that very weird picture that Andish has provided. And also kind of I'm kibitzing myself a little bit. Uh,
Yeah, this part is
um,
we're actually just talking. This is a whole
yeah.
like yeah.
I and based on what Puckett said about the purpose of the object kind of changing slightly, and I wonder if maybe this started as some kind of ritual object, maybe not a baptismal font, but maybe something darker, something associated with a ritual, maybe a sacrifice. Um, a
So
sacrificial font. Yeah, yeah, maybe.
uh do you think that this period is the creation of that uh uh, uh
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I guess if we if we want to tie this into a musical instrument, we could call this an overture, right? But may, uh, maybe composition is a better term.
uh so
Um, so it's creation as this kind of ritual object. Yeah.
creation of the doom as a ritual object, you said for sacrifice?
Let's go with sacrifice. Everyone loves a good bloody opening.
Okay. So we know that this is the time when it was created, probably the first uses of it during this time that I put that kind of sets our first period. Uh, Let me ask you this, Jose, do you think that that period, as we're going to be describing it, do we think that this is a period of kind of, oh, this is doom and gloom, kind of this whole event, this period is kind of darkness, or do we think it is more light, like that it was created and the creation of it actually has a positive spin on it?
I just think of sacrifices as often done when something bad is happening, and you're trying to avert something bad from happening. So I would think that it was created in a time of crisis of some sort, or a time yeah, where something bad is happening. That's the creation of the drum was designed to avert the darkness.
Okay. So yeah, so we're going to call that what they call a dark period. We assign dark or light to periods, to events, and to dedicated scenes. And the way we're going to mark that on our keeper is I'm going to put a gray background, gray fill in that box to show that's dark. And basically that means that this period, as you said, there's tumult, turmoil, kind of darkness going on in the background. Uh, Andish, what about the ending period? If I were to throw that to you, do you have an idea? What do we want for the end of this history?
Um, well, I can think of two things. Either the drum fulfills its purpose or whatever when it's finally played in the it fulfills its name, the doom, and it's played, or when it's destroyed, or maybe that's the same thing actually. It could be interesting.
So the drum fulfills its purpose.
Yeah. Or no, actually, wait, let's scratch that.
Okay.
I think I don't want to push that this is like some predestined thing, but I think the drum is used for great or uh, yeah, I think it's used to usher in a great change, but maybe that's not necessary. I mean, is that a good or a bad
Yeah.
change?
Do you have a name for that great change? You can give us a truly ambiguous and odd name there.
Yeah. Well, we can always go with like the reckoning. That's always
The
that's
Reckoning?
good. The reckoning, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I put crescendo. The doom is used to usher in a great change, the reckoning. Word wrap that. Puckett, do you think that's light or dark?
So is it a cop out if I say it's unclear? Because we can
Yeah,
usually only say
I need you
dark or light at
to
the end.
learn to lean one way or the other on this. Whether that period is a period of darkness or a period of light. Not necessarily what the drum brings about, but like what is the period that is happening in.
Hmm. Well, it was formed in a dark period, so it should probably end in a dark period.
Okay.
Perhaps the ending of the drum is the beginning of a light period.
Okay.
Or it could just be Warhammer 40K. What do I know?
Fair enough. A war-tossed grimdark future. Uh yeah, so those are give us our periods. They're general enough, they're vague enough that we kind of know maybe what the shape is a little bit, like what kind of events we might have in there, but we're going to detail out those events. We're going to come up with those events and the people that are involved with it. And that's going to tell us more about this drum, the doom, when we come to it. Now, now that we have that kind of in play, the last thing that we're going to do before we actually get to playing is we're going to go to the planning tab again, and we've got a palette. And you probably used the palette before in some other games. This is establishing some baselines for us. This is one of those ones where when you want to put something on the palette, that's you can talk about it with the table. You can poll the table about how they think about it. If you want to refine it, this is kind of open for that discussion. If you want to add something to the yes side, you add something to the yes side that you want to be part of the story, and you think other players might not have expected or anticipated it was going to be included. Like if there's a particular piece of modern fantastic that you want to definitely like say we get on there, or something oddball that you want to have that people might not have thought would be in a modern fantasy, modern urban fantasy kind of story. And then on the no side, add something to the no side if you don't want it to be in the story. If this is something that we would normally expect, like, oh, modern urban fantasy, I want, I would expect there would be vampires. If you don't want vampires, you put that on that side. It's that kind of thing. And this can be specific. This can be more general. So I'm going to go around and Donna, is there anything you want to put onto the palette?
Um, Given that I've led us down a very dark path with my choices so far, I want to see something. I want to see some scenes at least, or some eras where things are very mundane. You know, um,
There's
uh,
some exploration of mundanity.
yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair that rather than it being just earth-shattering doom that we want to look at the small things there. Jose, anything you want to add or ban, yes or no here?
Let's see. Um, I'm trying to think of the genre because I can think of things that are just usually in it, but this is asking me to think of things I would say no to that might usually be in it, or things I want to say yes to that might not usually be in the genre. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
also say like because urban fantasy is so big, if you do want to kind of nail down that you definitely want X element
Uh-huh.
of urban fantasy, you can also do that.
I could also say that. Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good fallback.
Okay. And these are more tonal. They're not so much specific things about the drum or anything like that, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, these are bigger picture things, sort of.
Actually, nothing's coming up for me.
Okay.
So
Well, how about
come back,
I'll
circle
come
back.
back to you,
Mhm.
Ondish.
Yeah. Kind of tying on to what I was saying before, I think I'd like to stay away from the drum having its own will or purpose or that sort of thing, that it is like what people choose to do with it. That's the interesting thing. It's not the Lord of the Rings where it's like the ring manipulates people. It's people using this tool or object.
Are folks good with that? That the drum itself does not have a conscious drive. It is a tool. Okay. Puckett,
Yes.
anything you want to add to the palette?
I want there to be periods of history where its origin and purpose have been forgotten.
Okay.
So, not trying to get too detailed, but like, somebody stumbles across it somewhere and thinks it looks cool, and suddenly it's part of a hippie drum circle or
Okay.
something like that.
So times when the knowledge of the drum has been lost.
Yeah.
All right, Jose, I want to give you another chance to do something you want to add or ban here. Now that you've heard a couple more.
Um, coming back to this idea that Donna said that, we've got some darkness here. And so he added mundanity to the palette. Yes. I think I want to add some kind of hope is the word that's coming up for me. Some kind of hopeful tone, that it's not all, apocalyptic or,
Okay.
it's all not all going to definitely go to shit. It might go to shit, but there is hope that it might not go to shit.
Okay. So not all, I put for on the
That's
no side,
another way
all
of putting it. Yes,
apocalyptic.
that's another way
Okay.
of putting it. Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
No, not
Uh,
apocalyptic. Thank
yeah.
you.
Donna, do you want to add anything else to the palette?
Um, I mean, I know we're in urban, um, urban fantasy territory, um, but we haven't pinned down any of those. I wonder if we have like competing, competing views of the world, you know, maybe not necessarily in terms of what the drum does, but in terms of like how you would approach this problem, this if some people believe in an apocalypse or believe that the drum has a destiny, then there are very um, let's call energetic discussions about that. We want some rival worldviews.
Okay. So competing worldviews?
Yeah,
Does that seem like a reasonable way to put that? Just as a thing, the competing reviews or you know, senses of purpose, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Uh, Ondish, and it is fair on this next go round to say I'm done.
Yeah, I think I am done.
Okay. Puckett, anything you wish to add?
Well, on the note of kind of brightening up the timeline a little bit,
Okay.
um, obviously this started as a sacrificial font, but when used as a drum, even if people don't know this, even if they've forgotten what this drum does, it does bring justice.
So this is about the palette, things that we would add that we
Sure.
want to be telling in the story. So, uh, like you want to say stories of justice?
Um, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
building off that third the legend about people confessing to murder when it's played.
Jose, anything else you wish to add onto the palette?
Um, Help me with this, folks,
Sure.
but I think for the no, I want to put no gods. Um, and and what I mean by that is no gods that come in and then do stuff. They
Okay.
could exist somewhere, we don't know though. But no gods that are part of of the no Deus ex machina, yes.
Yeah.
No divine intervention.
No divine intervention, that kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
I think that's perfect. Uh, Donna, anything else you wish to add?
No, that all looks good to me.
Okay. Puckett, anything else?
Nah, good to go.
Jose?
I'm good.
Okay. So that gives us our sense. And again, we haven't yet started to lock down like the time. We know it's modern urban fantasy. That can be a wide range of span here, 20, 21st century. We can even explore earlier as the background to that, however we want to set those things up here. So how this is going to work is we're going to get a first pass, and each of us is going to make a period or add an event under a period. And then we'll do a second pass and you'll get a chance to do another ad. So we're going to kind of populate a little bit on this. And then we'll start taking turns to go around. Before we go too much further, though, let me check in on the safety tab and do remind us all what page we're on for this. Here are the things that we have lines on for our play. We have lines on dental horror, detailed descriptions of blunt force head trauma, graphic gore, harm to animals, harm to children, PC betrayal, rioting, sexual assault, torture. These are all things that are kind of off the table. These are topics, themes, things that we don't want to have. Veil, meaning that if we were to put this stuff in the timeline, we reference it obliquely. It has happened, but we're not going to dwell on it. We're not going to, dig deep into it. Eye injuries, fat phobia, homophobia, sexual content, suicide, transphobia. Those are all on there. And then if we were to hit topics of homophobia, mind control, or starvation, even though we already have a veil on homophobia, we definitely want to check in on that before we put any of those three topics on the table there. Uh, so we're going to go, and this first round, you can add an event under a period, or you can add a new period in the history. Now, one of the things is I will help out in terms of moving things around and formatting and organizing here, but generally, I'm going to kind of leave you to it. So I have established an order. So it is going to be Donna, Ondish, Puckett, Jose. So Donna, uh, what would you like to add as a period or an event under a period? And at this point, I'm going to let you type things in.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I am maybe going with something that someone mentioned earlier, which was I don't know, hippie communes, but I'm gonna slightly switch it. I guess I'll just say what the 60s, the 1960s, if that's
okay. And where do you want to
and
put that? Uh,
I
okay.
mean, I'm going to put it relatively near the end, but of course, if someone wants to insert after that for the 90s
Absolutely.
or whatever peak urban fantasy period we want, uh, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Is
So
that
yeah,
all
so
we have to do?
right in the and maybe a little more descriptor on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a period of time that it exists in a hippie commune. Uh, is that a light period or a dark period?
I mean, I think it's light, right?
Okay. So
I think there are
we don't
shenanigans. Yeah.
we don't put anything in the background. Ondish, would you like to add a period or an event?
Um, I don't have a good idea for a period, so I guess I'll add an event, and I'll go with this 1960s period.
Okay.
Um, think think I'd like to put something at the end. That the Doom is sold off in like a garage sale when the commune breaks up.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Perfect. So type that text in. And you can put it anywhere because we'll move things around to kind of set the timeline.
Yeah, now I put it near the end here.
I am going to grab that and I am going to move it up a little bit just so that
Okay,
we can remember it. So I'll put it in that
yeah,
third
that's good.
box there. Is that light or dark?
Um, ooh, well, I guess that depends on who buys it. Um, I don't know. Um, let let's make it dark because
Okay.
it's not the right person who buys it.
Okay. So the time it was sold off is kind of a dark time, not the right person. Okay. And put that in that gray. Oop, wrong one. Puckett, would you like to add a period or an event?
A period.
Okay. Uh, between Overture in the 1960s or between the 1960s and Crescendo?
Between Overture and the 1960s, but
Okay.
much closer to Overture.
Okay. Just put it in
Um,
that E column.
okay. So what I'm thinking is that the drum has been around for at least 2 or 3 centuries at this point, and this is when the development of writing occurs, and
Okay. So very
people
early.
document the drum's existence.
Okay. So write that in.
Okay.
Do you think that is a period of light or a period of darkness?
Hmm. go with light because I think that people are documenting its unusual effect on murderers.
Okay. All right. Uh, Jose, do you want to add a period or an event within a period?
I think I'll add another period.
Okay.
And this period will be between the development of writing and the 1960s.
Okay. There, I opened up H for you.
Thank you. H. And it's going to be the 1920s. And how do I do this? Do I do it this way? I think the drum or the doom that's called, right?
Yep.
The doom re-emerges. Re-emerges. And is used as a musical instrument in early jazz.
Okay.
And I will wrap that.
Do you think that's dark or light?
I'm going to say that's light.
Okay. That's our first pass. Our second pass, now that we have that, is we're going to go around again, and this time you can either put an anchor, which is a person, give them a name, and describe their relationship to what's going on, particularly to the object, to the chronicle, particularly in this time frame, or you can add an event to one of the periods that we've already got established. So, Donna, we'll start with you. I'm also going to ask Andish. Andish, what is it under the picture that you gave us? It says Dopfuntar.
Yeah, that's the baptismal font.
Okay.
Dope is baptism.
So I think I will give a create an anchor in this development of writing period.
Okay.
Let me just name. Okay. And Nicanor is a scribe or a scholar who is trying to document what came before, so the origin of the drum.
Okay. I like that.
Do I need to give any more details?
No, that gives us
Okay.
a picture of that person. Uh, oh, reset that in there. So we've got a character. We may learn more about them through the events that occur, but it gives us kind of a picture. Uh, Andish?
Yeah, I'm going to add an anchor. I'm going to add the leader of the hippie commune.
Okay.
And his name is Mark Lubar. That's a name. Americans can have weird names. I should write some more details. Leader of the hippie commune. Yes.
Okay. And we'll do that. And then Puckett?
Jose, would you mind if I added an anchor to your jazz period?
Go right ahead.
Um, in that case, going to add the drummer in a big band named Dizzy Buncombe, who finds the drum and thinks that it would be a hoot to add to his set, a conversation piece, something to really make the big band stand out.
Okay.
Uh,
Type that up, put that in.
Working on it. And then since that's going to take me a couple of seconds, is there another question I need to answer about the anchor?
No, I just need you to kind of put that in to kind of describe that. We've got them in there.
Okay.
Uh, uh, Jose, do you want to add an anchor or do you want to add an event? And you can add an anchor to a period that already has one. We've just moved things around to get that set. You're muted.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think I'll add another anchor to the 1920s period.
okay. Widen that out for you.
That's going to be I.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Her name's Ellen Rigsby. Rigsby. And she is a jazz singer with a drug problem. I think that's okay on
Yep.
a jazz singer with a drug problem, um, who becomes mesmerized by the drum.
Nice.
And I will wrap that text.
Okay. All right. So that gives us our first and second pass. We're going to take our break now. And when we come back, we're going to start those turns. And I'll talk about what's involved with that. And go ahead. So let's take 10 and we'll return. So now we're going to go and take turns talking about figuring out things. First, I'll talk about the structure in a moment. Again, what you can create on your turn. Anchors. Anchors are characters. They're not light or dark. They're associated with a period. We kind of get a name and something they're about. A period is a span of time. Kind of what is this era about? How is it different from the other eras? What is going on in it? Very generally, those are light or dark. An event is a particular thing that happens in an event. It's within a period. We kind of put that in order so we can move them around if something happens before or after. Basically, when you do an event, you want to kind of describe what happens. If there's an anchor involved, kind of tell us, what their part in it might be. And then light or dark. And this is not about future consequences, but kind of at the time, how was it viewed? Like what, why is it light? Why is it positive? Why is it negative? And kind of tell us what that's about. The last thing that you can do is you can put a dictated scene basically to the side of an event to add something to it to tell us like something like drill in and give us a specifics of a moment within that event that you think was significant. That is also marked as light or dark. So the way this works is our first player is going to get the little sheet here. Uh, our first player is either going to pick an existing anchor or make a new one. And this anchor is going to be our focus for the round. All of us that go after Donna will also write something that connects to them, that anchor that's chosen, and the chronicle, the doom. Um, if you have an idea for an anchor and you need a period to put them in, you can kind of start backwards and put a period and then add an anchor on that. So you choose the anchor. You take your turn adding a period, event, or scene. uh, and would go around. Then you get another bite at the apple. So you will go twice in this round that you choose the anchor. And then the person who went just before you, which would be Jose, gets to do a free roll, gets to put something anywhere they want. So that's how that works. Are there any questions? Okay. So Donna, who do you want as your anchor for this round?
Um, I think Mark Lubar,
Okay.
or hippie. I mean, if communes have leaders when they're good communes, uh, uh, and I think I will add an event associated with him.
Okay.
I think relatively early in this period, maybe not when the commune starts, but maybe when the commune first finds the doom. Um, um, let's call it moving in. Um, Finding the doom in a dusty corner of, I don't know, this barn or this farmhouse. They've just uh, taken ownership in inverted commas of.
Okay. Do you think that is light or dark? Like that event,
Yeah,
that moment?
yeah. I think I'm gonna stick with light as this. There's plenty of room for this to turn.
Okay. Uh, Andish.
Cool. So now I'm also doing something related to the to Mark Luba, right?
Yeah, you can do an event, a scene. You could establish a
Yeah.
new period.
Um, I think. I think the commune is fractured um, when the doom causes Lubar to admit to a murder, to murdering
Nice.
someone else in the commune has been killed, and he's revealed as the killer. That's going to be dark.
Yeah.
uh, and the doom causes Lubar to admit to the murder of another member of the community.
And I will make that dark. Uh, Puckett.
Well, now I got to think of something different
Yes,
because,
this is the trick of microscope.
I mean, apparently Andish and I have the same brain today. Doo, 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 doo.
And if we need to move events up or down, we can do that.
Remind me, can I add another anchor?
So right now you can add a period, event, or scene.
Okay. Um, okay, the scene. How far down do we have to go for the scene? Or does that just go down below that gray line where
So
moving linens?
what we do if you want to do a scene, kind of like to describe something very specific that happens within an event,
Uh-huh.
well, I'll move that column wider next to it, and you'll put it next to that, to the event.
Okay.
So you want me
Because
to,
the scene that I have in mind is the member of the commune who gets murdered was confronting Mark Lubar about where the commune's money was actually going and finding out that Lubar was dealing heavy drugs, not the, grass and LSD that the commune had agreed on. He was
sure.
like
Do
moving
you want
heroin.
that? Let me ask you this.
Sure.
just a point of clarification. Do you want that as a scene within that commune fracture event, or do you want that as a event that happens before that fracture?
I, to my thinking, the fracture happens because Lubar admits to the murder, so it would need to be before the fracture.
Okay, so yeah, let's in that case, I'm gonna put a space above that commune fractures. I'm gonna add a couple cells.
Okay.
And there we go. We got a space there now.
Alrighty. Um, Andish, since you had the idea,
Now I'm gonna say you don't get to ask other people for things in this. This is one of the
okay,
problems with Microscope. I know you're like our instinct is as open hearth players is to poll the table and get input.
I was just going to ask about a name, but let's call this person. Um, you know what? I'm just going to be real obnoxious about all this. Daffodil.
Okay,
All right. There is my event.
perfect. Light or dark?
Ooh, I think that's dark.
That definitely feels that way. Okay. Jose.
There I go. So the difference between a scene and an event is just like the amount of specificity. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so a scene is basically like if you wanted to describe like very specifically Lupar's murder of Daffodil. That would be a scene within the kind of that event. That would be a detail kind of you're expanding out to tell us a little bit more about a piece of that thing.
Uh-huh. I see. So it's so a scene is always based on an event.
Yes.
It's a further articulation of an event that it's already on the table.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
Sometimes it gives us a hook that'll hang on. Sometimes it answers a question that we might have. Sometimes it points us to another character.
All right. I think I want to add a scene to the event that Puckett just created. Um, and so I would add specificity to this, right? And I would put it to the right of it. Is that what like here? Um, which cell should I put it in? Should I put it in M7?
How am I muted? How is that happening?
Oh,
There
is
we
that what was
go.
happening? I wondered. Am I
Yes,
asking the wrong question?
M7.
M7. Okay,
I was
M7.
calling out battleship numbers and
All right. So the scene I'm seeing is that uh this actually happens. It's Daffodil and Lubar, I don't know, are actually um in bed together. So this is a post-coital scene, I think, when Daffodil brings up the issue with Lubar. And so they're actually lovers, and that's how Daffodil was close enough to Lubar to find out about the drug sales. Um, and yeah, I think that's all I want to put. So I will write that in.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, awful but great. Yes.
Oh, it's dark. Sorry. Do I have to
Oh, yeah.
give a do scenes get dark and light?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so it'll be dark. Um,
Put the fill in there.
all right, I just keep writing it out. Sorry, and I will unmute myself.
Or mute yourself.
Am I going again, Lowell,
Yes.
or
So the next person to go is Donna. You will now get another chance to add something related to this anchor that you've chosen.
yeah? And I think I will add a scene to this, the fracturing of this commune.
Okay.
Um, I think dark scene. Spoiler alert. Um, the commune votes uh, Nubar off the island, so to speak, and murders him in the same spot. Uh, and I think I'm not sure it's planned. This is not maybe the way the commune meant to do things, but it maybe gets out of hand when he tries to reassert his authority. But I think our final scene, as they drag the body away to bury it in a shallow grave, is the drum, the doom, like drinking the blood as it spills out over the floorboards.
We'll write that in. And Jose, now while Donna is writing that up, you get the last word in this round because you're to the right, if we were going around the table of Donna, and you get to add anything you want. You can add an anchor, you can add a period, scene, event. It doesn't have to relate to the anchor that was chosen. You get a free do what thou wilt addition to the timeline.
oh, okay. So it could be anything about anybody and or even something new.
Exactly.
So it seems like we've done a lot on this particular um, set of events here. Um, okay, I'm going to add an anchor to the last period, the crescendo. Uh, um, and his name will be um, James. Uh, James Will. James Will, and he is the reincarnation of Daffodil.
Okay.
um, who encounters, who is drawn once again into the orbit of the drum.
Nice.
All right, there we go. I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, I have to wrap it. That's me.
Okay. Excellent. I'm gonna color that in with our beige. I'm going to insert color. Do this. So that's the end of that turn. Now, Ondish, you are going to start this next round. And again, you'll choose an anchor or you'll establish a new one. And that will be the focus of this round.
Oh, um, I had an idea. Sorry, I was going to pick an anchor or
So you need to pick an anchor that we're going to focus on. And if you
yeah,
want
yeah.
to add a new one to do that, you can.
Okay, okay. I'm going to go with Ellen Rigsby, the jazz singer. And I think I want to add an event for that period because I had an idea that um, a riot breaks out during a concert where the drum is used when like two different people admit to murder in the audience admit to murders.
Nice.
Or maybe it's just one person, but it's a really it's a controversial like a high what do you call a high profile murder.
So Ellen Rigsby, and you're going to add an event. So go ahead and add that event.
Yeah. Um, I think that's going to be no.
Okay. Uh, that then brings us to Puckett. We've got Rigsby as our anchor.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Um, you know what? I wanted to add an event
Okay.
because Ellen's fascinated with the drum that Dizzy plays. So the event that I want to add is when Dizzy and Ellen meet for the first time, probably at her audition to be the singer for this ensemble, and basically lock eyes, and it's love at first sight.
Okay. So probably before the incident with
Definitely before.
okay. Thank you for catching that, Donna.
Yeah. Caused a commotion, maybe. So do I put that in the I column?
So you put that in the H column,
Okay,
and you'll put that in one of those boxes above the one we've already got.
gotcha.
And again, we can always fit new things in between events. We can always move stuff down.
I mean, it's probably doomed love, but at least there's some
Yeah.
happiness,
Okay.
you know, Because, things always go so well with jazz chanteuses who are on drugs.
Hmm. Uh,
And that's a light
Jose,
event.
yeah.
All right, so I can add an event or a scene involving Ellen, right?
Hmm.
Does everything have to be directly connected to the drum?
Not necessarily. The
Okay.
the it
Hmm.
right now, I mean, you may show us something about the anchor so we know more about their lives, so
Right.
we can get the context later.
Hmm. Okay. Um, uh, so I think I want to add then an event about Ellen. Um, and I think the event will be before she meets Dizzy and auditions for the band. Um, and the event, I can leave it some parts of it vague, right?
Yeah,
They could be fleshed out later or hooks. Um, is her we see oh well this is more of a scene, but anyways, I'll just paint it in broad terms.
yeah. Paint the scene for us.
She's in conversation with some kind of demonic presence and she has given up something precious in order to have a beautiful singing voice. Um, so and the details of that we can, if we want to flesh out, we can flesh out. And I'll write it in there at H5, I guess.
Do you want to read that as light or dark?
I think I'll take that as dark, yeah.
Okay. And then Donna?
Yeah, I was going to inject some form of urban fantasy into this urban fantasy also. Um, so let me just do a quick insert. Um, I am thinking maybe this is like shortly thereafter. Um, we see Ellen rehearsing for a new piece, but the notation we see um, is not musical notation. It is some kind of eldritch text. Uh, some dark ritual. Uh, it's not Cthulhu in the 1920s Berlin, but it's close.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, I guess that is also dark.
Okay.
I mean, it's beautiful music, but
Beautiful, but dark. The strange music of Eric Zahn kind of thing. Okay. Uh, so Adish, you will get one more uh, bite at this eye anchor, and then Donna, you get to do a free anything you want.
Yeah. Um, mm, really like this Eldritch script ritual thing. Um, Thinking of adding what is it I'm adding to that? Is that a scene?
Yeah, if you'd like to put out more detail about that ritual, about that moment.
Yeah. Um, think um, hmm. I just have a visual of like the rehearsing, and kind of things are getting wilder and wilder, and the next day the band wakes up and they don't really remember what happened uh, the night before. I would put something like that.
I'm guessing that's dark as well,
Um,
or
I
is it
think
light for
should be,
them?
yeah, for them I think it's more like, oh wow, this was a cool experience, and
Oh yeah,
yeah, it really brings them together. I think that's uh, um, yeah.
perfect.
So I think that's actually light. Uh,
Donna.
Um, yeah, I think I'll add something to this same period. I think maybe a scene connected with this event of Dizzy meeting Ellen. Uh, I think this is maybe that night at his place. Ellen is having this dark dream, maybe associated with the script, but uh, Dizzy is playing the drum from in the other room, and I think this, I don't know, brings her out of it, like breaks the hold that it has on
Ooh,
her.
I like it. And feels light.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Uh, next round. Puckett, what would you like? Who would you like for your anchor?
You
And
know,
we can do a new period if you want to add new anchor. We can add an anchor to existing period.
let's it Donna, was it Nika Noor? Is that how you pronounced it?
And I am the authority on ancient Akkadian names,
Hey, I'm
That
just
is how I
asking.
pronounce it.
Okay. So let's start with Nika Noor.
Okay.
Uh, you know, just to kind of dig in a little bit more to the urban fantasy aspect of it, I'm not sure that Nika Noor was a scholar or scribe initially, but rather bartered with a demon to develop writing. And the drum became documenting the drum became part of that because the demon wanted the drum to be documented so people knew how to use it and what it did. And well, it's difficult to classify anything that a demon does or does not do as good or evil. I'm going to say that this is, at the time, this seems good.
Okay.
I mean, you're developing writing and you're documenting an instrument of justice. How could that possibly go wrong? All right. So
Perfect.
wrap.
Jose, Nicanor is our anchor for the round.
I'd like to add an event to Nikanor's story. And the event is that the king, the Nicanor is having the drum played for the king, and one of the princes is present amongst other people, and the prince confesses to the murder of his concubine in front of all these other nobles. And the ruler puts Nicanor to death because of that.
Okay.
Because that's I guess at the end of Nicanor's
Yeah.
timeline.
You can drop down a couple of boxes.
I'll drop down a couple of boxes. Yeah.
I mean, it
That's
is urban
dark.
fantasy, so
Oh yeah.
That's true.
Nick, it's urban fantasy, so these characters can die and come back anywhere on the timeline.
Let me.
Um, yeah, I mean this event maybe is something leading up to this, but maybe doesn't have Nicanor in it exactly.
Hmm.
But I think um, this demon um, is manipulating the prince, and basically maneuvering him into murdering this concubine.
Dark or light,
That,
Jose?
that, that seems dark for me.
Okay.
Oh, I'll say mine's dark.
Uh, Ondish? You are muted.
I'm just talking to myself
Oh,
anyway.
okay.
Nicanor barters with the demon. Um, yeah, the demon manipulates prince. Um, Crown Prince confesses, and Nicanor is put to death. did I misunderstand?
Yeah.
Maybe I missed something. But not the crown. Oh, right. The crown prince confesses, and Nicanor is put to death for bringing about the confession. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Excellent. I think. Ooh.
I guess I've departed from the justice theme.
I think I want to do something here after Nicanor's death. I think Nicanor's ghost or spirit um yeah, I think yeah. Let's do this. Um Nicanor's uh ghost reveals to one of his apprentices where he has hidden his secret notes about the doom and the demon. And I think that's like,
Okay. I like that. Puckett?
Now, I can create an event elsewhere, correct?
Yes, as long as it relates to Nicanor.
Okay, as long as it relates to Nicanor. Nicanor is actually a reincarnation of the event is the creation of the doom. With at the first fire in the first cave by Nicanor, who then reincarnated to develop writing.
Okay.
I will write that in. Um, that's, I mean, I feel like that's got to be dark.
Okay.
So,
And then Ondish, you get a chance to add anything you want to the timeline, an anchor, a period, event, scene. Doesn't have to relate to the anchor that we've just gone through.
oh, okay. Um, so, ooh, thing. Oh, oh. I was trying to think of a way to connect that Eldritch script Ellen was using to. I want to tie it in with Nicanor's story, even if I don't have to do that. Um, think. Um, yeah. I think that's another scene, maybe connected to that event. How would we do that? Can I add more scenes to the same event?
Yeah. So which event?
Ellen rehearses with an Eldritch script, age 7.
Absolutely. Let me
And I
move
think
that.
this is before the other event or other scene. Sorry.
Okay. So I'll copy that, put that next to it.
Yeah. I think Ellen finds some scrap of a translation of Nicanor note in a collection of what do you say in English? Like notes, the
Musical score?
yeah, of musical scores she picks up in second hand.
Nice. Jose, you get to choose an anchor now.
Oh, okay. So we're starting a new round. Okay.
Yes.
So I can choose an anchor of the anchors we have, or I can make another, right?
Yes. If you need to, you can make a new period for that
I can
anchor as
make a new
well.
period for it, yeah. Let's see. I have an anchor that I want to create, but I'm not sure which period to put them into. Um, I'll put them into the beginning, to the overture.
Okay.
Um, this is a demon, the demon we've been talking about.
Oh, nice.
I think we have to talk about the demon in the room.
Yeah.
I'll call him Alcasur, and um, a demon bound to he's somehow bound in the making of the drum, so that he is always within its orbit, functioning within its orbit. And I think it was accidentally bound. Um, I can spell. Accidentally bound to the drum and doomed to always uh, exist in its orbit. Oh, there it is. And I will wrap that. And
And because you created a new anchor, you
yes.
get to now, before we go around, you get to add an event or a scene related to Alcasur.
Okay. Let's see. The event that we have in that timeline right now. Okay. I will add an event to that timeline. Um, uh, Now, the event that we have in existence right now on B5,
Hmm.
is that the creation of the drum? I can't quite.
Yes.
Yes.
It does talk about the creation of the drum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's when the drum was made.
Okay. So could I add a scene to that event, or
Yeah.
do I have to create another
Yeah.
event? I can add a scene to that event. Okay, so why don't I do that? Um, uh, and and I'll say that Al-Kasur is chained to the fate of the drum by the spirit of the first fire.
Nice.
Um, and for purposes it's unknown, I guess. Unknown to him. To him. Okay. I think that.
Dark or light?
It sounds dark to me.
Okay.
um, we'll leave some of that open-ended. All right.
Donna?
Um, yeah. I wonder if we get to see the Doom's like first big challenge, right? Maybe there is the land is in disarray. There's an eruption, a volcano, and there will be a sacrifice to avert disaster. And I think the drum is to call the attention of whoever the sacrifice is being made to that sacrifice. So this is like the proclamation of the sacrifice, which is maybe where this announce your murders thing comes from.
Okay. And so the drum being kind of the stand-in for Alcazar in this as the anchor there, right?
Well, so Alcasur is like in the drum now, right?
Hmm.
That's what I understand. So Alcasur is witnessing this and maybe concocting an idea for how it can get itself out of this, right?
Okay.
Uh, I think this is, I think this is mostly light because
Okay.
this is the drum averting disaster, right?
Yeah.
But we have a seed for Alcasur's kind of future plans, right?
Oddish. Alcazar is our anchor.
Alcasur is our anchor. What's the latest mention we have of Alcasur? Because we talked a lot about different demons, but I'm not sure if have we decided that it's all the same demon?
Up to you.
Cool. I kind of I like Alcasur being bound to the drum, but I kind of want to separate them at some point.
Oh, okay.
Um, but right now, that means either during the development of writing or in the 1920s, which is either very early or very late. But I think the 1920s, um, I think something happens there. Um, let's see. Yeah. So this is drum playing breaks the hold the demon has on Ellen. I think I'm going to maybe that's Alcazar, maybe not, but I think something here is going to yeah. Um, After this commotion with the confessed murder, I think Dizzy is yeah. Um, Dizzy's drumming is I think is tapping into something uh, sacred, which forces Alcazur out of drum, Heart of the Doom, or actually sever. Let's say which severs Alcasur's connection to the two.
Light or dark?
That's light,
Okay.
I'd say.
Puckett.
Yes.
Alcazar is in your hands.
Ah, I can bounce forward, correct?
Yeah.
All right. I would uh, like to add an event in the 1920s.
Okay.
Um,
Where would you like to put that in the timeline of events we already have?
well, we don't have, as near as I can tell, anything about when Ellen starts using drugs. But to
So,
really throw this into the urban fantasy genre, I think Ellen gets her drugs from the Goblin King at the night market, but Alcasur is tainting them.
so where would you like to put that event?
Ah, I think that probably goes up at H5.
Okay. So,
Um,
but after H5 or before H5?
I think before H5.
Okay. Let
I
me,
think her drug problem started before she got that beautiful singing voice, perhaps because she didn't have a beautiful singing voice.
okay. There, I've given you some space.
And I think this is going to be a dark event.
Okay. That definitely makes sense. Jose, you get one more thing to add regarding Alcazar.
I think I'm going to add an event to the 1960s time period. Um,
Where would you like that?
it would be between 5 and 7.
Okay, let me add a couple of cells in there.
Alcasur visits Daffodil in a disturbing dream and tells him where to find the documents incriminating uh, Lubar.
Ooh, nice.
They're always causing trouble, demons,
Hmm.
though. Wait, did I do it? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, I did do it. Yeah, there's somewhere. I put in the wrong one. Sorry. I can copy it and paste
yeah.
it.
Light or dark?
Well, that's interesting now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that it's light.
Okay.
Justice.
Yeah, absolutely. Pocket. Now you get a chance. You don't have to talk about Alcazar. You get a chance to put anything anywhere you want. A new anchor, period, events, scenes.
Mm. I think I want to add an anchor. Um, for the crescendo.
Okay.
Because I mean, it started with Nicanor. It feels like Nicanor should be there at the end of
Okay.
things. Um, and I will come up with the name in a second, but I think it. Ooh, no. You know what? I want to change that to an event.
Okay.
Um, because I think Nicanor reincarnates again, and with the help of the spirit of the first fire, destroys the drum.
Okay.
Um, and I feel like given everything that we've described about this drum, that's probably a good thing. You know, it would certainly seem to break Alcasur's hold, or at least the proximity to the drum. So,
Puckett, can I ask a question?
sure. Did I mute myself?
You said sure. Yes, done it.
So how does that play into the period of crescendo? Where
Probably happens after the reckoning, right?
so is the destruction of the doom the reckoning? Is
Oh,
that it, or is this afterwards? You know,
Oh, the reckoning is the destruction of Alcasur.
okay.
That was a really good question, Donna. Um, I know I'm not supposed to ask this, but are you okay with it? Nod yes or no.
So I'm going to let you finish that out, Puckett. We're going to do one more round.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, on this round, I'm going to start. I'm going to add an anchor and a period just because I want to put my 2 cents in. And then we're just going to go around. Everybody can add, you can add one or two things on your turn. So think about, and this can go anywhere. Like if you want to fill in, finish off anything like that. So I am going to add a period here uh, in between just to kind of bridge that gap there. And I'm going to put the period as so this is a period between the 1960s and the crescendo is the dissemination of the recordings of the drum. I think that those get out there, and I'm going to have an anchor to associate with that. And my anchor is the Revenant Dizzy Bunscombe, who is kept unalive by the drum and is still playing it. So I added those in. Uh, Donna, free range.
um, Yeah, I mean, I am inclined to add something to this uh, new period. Um, I think perhaps this is Alcasur looking for, a loophole of this inevitable destruction of his. I think this is maybe where playing with the recordings of the drum, like, does the power of the drum, does the demonic power survive in a digital age, right? Um, so this is, I don't know, experiments with what other forms he could take.
Him as a recording engineer.
And I mean, I guess this is dark, right?
I
Not
think
not for
so.
Alcazar, but
Yeah. Ondish? You could add something
Yeah.
anywhere you'd like.
Um, feel like we've filled out the early part fairly well. I'd like to do something here near the end. Um, yeah, I think. Ooh. Um, I think some of the drums' power to force confessions persists in the recordings, but it's much weaker. So I think it causes people to admit to much more minor things than murder. uh, and I'm trying to figure out because like if um hmm, or maybe that yeah that maybe that's turning a bit too much towards the silly. Um, let's see. We'll have destroys the doom and Alcazar in the process. Um, I think there has to be an event before before the doom is destroyed, where it's
Okay.
played for the final time. Or maybe that's a scene during the
Okay.
um, uh, during the destruction of the doom. Uh, is still playing it, and his playing helped contain the destruction that would otherwise be wrought, cost, wrought. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Puckett.
That's like, in case that wasn't obvious.
Yep.
All righty. Um, oh, I don't quite know how to put this in, but between the Revenant Dizzy Buncombe and, Dizzy's original stint in jazz, there's that bit about the dissemination of the recordings of the Doom. Um, what I'm thinking is that Alcasur used like, oh, how to do this? Because if the drums is Dizzy in the drum or is Dizzy like an actual human playing the drum? Did we establish that?
I
I see him as
imagined him.
presenting him
Oh,
as a
sorry.
physical being.
Okay. Um, in that case, you know what? Um, I got this. This will be an event in '07.
Okay.
Alcacer records Dizzy playing the Amen break or the Amen break, which was sampled for countless hip hop records at this point.
Countless. I watched a video on that.
Right. So, it's like maybe this kind of fractures Alcacer and disseminates, like dissipates Alcacer's spirit across thousands of recordings, probably.
Light or dark?
I think that's got to be dark.
Okay.
It's Alcacer trying to get out of whatever's coming.
And Jose, you get last word.
So much responsibility here.
I know.
Um, so is our sense that Alcacer is hiding in all of those recordings to somehow evade um, uh, destruction? Because we did establish that he is destroyed in the process at the end,
Hmm.
right? Um, all right, I have an event. It'll be in the crescendo.
Okay.
It will be before the one that is currently on
Okay.
R5.
I'll insert some cells. There you go.
And the event is that we see James Will uh, with earbuds in, presumably listening to hip hop. And he is, let me just think it out before I try to write it down.
Sure.
Um, and he is, he's broken into the apartment of the reincarnation of Nicanor.
Mm.
And is attempting to. Oh, am I going to be the very, very last person? Is anyone going to
Yeah.
go?
No, this is
Oh,
it.
oh my goodness. Is attempting to murder Nicanor.
Okay.
And strangle him with a garrote, let's call it. He's approached him from behind and he's tried to garrote Nicanor. And then but he is unsuccessful. I think the spirit of fire intervenes and how is he unsuccessful? Let me just get this. He attempts to garrote him. Nicanor um, somehow elbows him in the stomach, and James Will falls into. He has one of those open fireplaces, and he falls into the open fireplace, and the flames somehow preternaturally explode around him and incinerate him. That's what I got.
I like it. Dark or light?
I'll say it's dark.
Okay. Take a look back through all that we've got here.
Just to be clear,
Yep.
I would like to make sure that we all note that Carlos Seville's big band was integrated and that Dizzy was a black man.
Okay.
I'm not trying to like, give white dudes more privilege or credit for something as profound as the Amen break.
I think that's perfectly fair.
Yeah, that was my assumption. So,
Oops.
Perfect. So that's Microscope Chronicle, the focus on that. I would like to get some impressions, thoughts, stars, anything else, anything to say. I did go with the Google Sheets. I thought it worked for me, at least, fine. Uh, because I've tried to work with Miro before and I find it very difficult. There's some people I've watched who can absolutely have a mastery of it, and it kind of stuns me. Whereas this is a kludge, but it works. Uh, One of the nice things about doing this online as opposed to face is sometimes when you play face to face, it's hard to see what has already been established because you're writing these on index cards and putting them out there. You have to lean over the table and look. One of the things I like about doing it online is the ability to go back and check things and see where things are and kind of correct your spellings and stuff as you go along. Uh, yeah, this is my first time in Chronicle. Uh, Donna, thoughts, comments?
Yeah, I mean, things I've found interesting, we have these huge epochs between a couple of different periods, and then we have like 20s, 60s, 90s, whatever. Um, that's that's the kind of bullshit chronology I expect with urban
Yes,
fantasy, right?
exactly. And then it stayed the
Um,
same for 1,000 years.
yeah, exactly. Um, but that's good. I think it's interesting the way we set up these bookends, right? Uh, that we kind of know where the story is going-ish, right? But we have a lot of scope to mess with that in between. So it seems like, it's the journey, not the destination, right?
hmm
I wonder if that would be a little bit limiting, uh, but yeah, certainly an interesting um, pitch for the game. Yeah.
Had you played Microscope itself before?
Yeah, and I think now I have played all of the other Ben Robbins
Okay,
games.
good. Okay.
So I didn't find it a huge issue with any of the other games where we have no idea where things end up.
hmm
Someone can always just add something at the end. So yeah, I guess it's maybe it's a addressing a common complaint. I don't know.
Yeah. Andish?
yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think having characters, these anchors, I think that's a good thing. Um,
hmm
it helps a little bit with my main problem with Microscope, that it's so woolly, and I always feel like there's nothing. It's like you're picking out these little points of things in just a huge, and there's just a huge soft mass around them. And I think this gave it a little bit more structure. I prefer even more structure than this, but I think this worked well. I think the Google Sheet worked reasonably well as well, though I felt a couple of times, maybe once or twice, that should I bother adding a period here when we need to like insert extra columns, even if it's not like a big
Right.
bother, it still feels like, oh, okay, now we need to do the thing and all that. But that's not. I mean, yeah, that's just how the game. Um, yeah, I had fun. I think I prefer this over standard microscope, but there's not like a huge difference.
It does like I will say, I haven't had the one area I have had is when in standard microscope there's no anchors and there's not a like central conceit. You can do anything in the history.
Hmm.
And that freedom when it comes around and the person who's first player has to choose the lens, which is
Yeah,
people really get jammed up on that. Like, what's the theme for this round? And
yeah,
then they have to like go justice or swords, and like that often freezes people.
yeah,
So I do, and I like having it does force us to look at the lives of people rather than very abstractly presenting events. So
yeah,
I do think there's something really strong. I think you could take the chronicle, like, okay, we're going to cover this thing and just do the history, but have those anchors in there, and it would feel really good.
Mhm.
yeah. I also like not playing out scenes because I think that's the. I mean, it can be fun, but I think for the game that Microscope is, it's the worst part.
Oh yeah,
So, but that's for me.
right. For me, it's always been a campaign building tool. So I'm like, we don't need to play the scenes. We're just building the world. So that, yeah. Puckett?
Funny you mentioned using it as a campaign builder because I've played Microsoft exactly once with Mike Barford, so you can tell
Oh
how
my
long ago
gosh.
that was.
Yeah.
And we literally used it as the engine by which we set up a campaign. Um, so to me, this seemed, and I think this has been mentioned, and Lowell, I think this might be a word you use a fair bit or a term you use a fair bit. It feels less loosey-goosey.
Hmm.
It feels more structured. I liked that the Google Sheet worked fine to me, with the exception of Google's Sheet never starting off with wrap as a default, which annoys
Yes.
the hell out of me every time.
Even
Um,
if I globally set it, it's like, oh, somebody cut and pasted it. I guess I better reset all the settings.
yeah, right. Um, it was kind of a challenge in one way, and this speaks to the gaming culture that we've established because
Yes.
I want to check in with people. Hey, it's your NPC. I want to do this with them. Are you okay with that? So just taking that kind of agency was a little weird, a
Yeah.
little weird. Um, a little weird there.
Yeah.
Um,
I've played with it looser too. And I think you can very easily.
but all in all, I mean, at the end of the day, we play games to have fun, right?
Hmm.
And this was a fun experience, at least for me. I loved the collaboration, the give and take, the building on things that were established. That moment at the beginning when Andish and I had the same idea about Mark Lubar killing somebody. Um, it's I had a lot of fun with it, and it's kind of striking how what kind of stories emerge as people add on things and place things in different locations. Is it before something? Is it after something? That was a lot of fun to watch, just to see how the story shifted with each new edition.
I love when people put in things that I had not been expecting, when it twists and turns things. That is so much fun. Even if I have to scratch out what I've been putting down on paper, I love when I get the swerve. So yeah. Jose, so this is your first time with Microscope. So thoughts?
Wow. Similar to what other people have said, but I think it's so for me it was fun to do it. Everything worked out fine with I was fine with the Google Sheet and everything and what was gelling in front of us, but it feels like very much kind of this high level kind of plot construction, right? Of as if you're writing the outline for a novel, right? But you're
Hmm.
never getting to actually write scenes. And that for me, for my play style, is a little bit frustrating because that's where I have the most fun, I think, actually in the nitty gritty of the
Oh,
scene. And but I get because I haven't played, and I think I was hearing Anders said that when you put in kind of more player scenes in this game, it bogs down or something bad happens. I don't know because I haven't played. This is the only time I've played the game. Um, but it was great to watch other people's thought process around you know, interpolating and creating and pulling threads and creating plot because it's not one of my specialties. So actually, maybe this is a good game for me to play over and over again to get better at this. Regardless of all of that, I really did have a good time, and it's fun. It's unique. I haven't played a game like this before, and so I'd like to play again.
A couple of games I recommend of his that you might really enjoy. I think Kingdom is really good
Okay.
because it is about like you've got a story, you're all building a kingdom and you're trying to figure out how to keep it up. The other one you might like that's a little bit tighter is this Follow, which is where you are telling the story of a quest, and you actually do more character to character scenes to kind of
Mm,
play things out. And it is more about that. We've got a framework of a quest, but we're stopping to talk to each other about what's going on the quest and things. So I think that those are good ones.
cool. I'll look for those. Thanks.
Yeah, I
Thank you
think
all
I.
for
Oh,
indulging
sorry.
me and playing this so I could finish out my a set of Ben Robbins games. I really appreciate that. Uh, I am going to stop the recording.